Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and Gym Leader Challenge format is right around the corner in Pokemon TCG Live. I think actually 2 weeks ago I recorded a video about Pokemon TCG Live and GLC, and then I posted it, and then I was like, it'll be up the format in an hour, and then it wasn't. So hopefully everything's worked out for Pokemon TCG Live. And GLC is a format that, if you're not familiar with, it has three main rules. First of all, it's one type. This is kind of where the name comes from. Gym Leader Challenges, named after Tricky Gym, but it also is like gym leaders have one type of Pokemon, though of course the video game and the TCG types are different. But anyways, that's where that main idea comes from. Then it also is single prizers slash no EXs slash no rule box cards at all, including ace specs and like Prism Star cards and stuff like that. So you can't play any of those cards. And then the third rule is that it is singleton, so only one copy of every single card except for basic energies. And that means if there's a Pokemon, for example, if you want Charmander, you can only have one Charmander in total, not like one of each different Charmander. So those are the basic rules. Then the other rule is the cards that are legal in the regular Gym Leader Challenge format that most people play. It's from black and white on, and then there are also a handful of bans, which I'll actually talk about a little bit today. But then there are also in Pokemon TCG Live, those cards don't all work. So black and white cards and X and Y cards aren't presumably programmed into the game. You can't play them, and I assume they don't work. But then in Gym Leader Challenge, in Pokemon TCG Live, you also won't be able to play with these cards, so keep that in mind. And I'm going to be going over the GLC decks and talk about how you can kind of change them for the new format. Previously, I posted this, as I said, 2 weeks ago, a video where I talked about the cards you can't play, and now I'm talking about the cards you can play. Not going to dive super deep into it because obviously there's a lot of cards you can play, but going to go over the general ideas of each type and show a list or two from what people have been playing on some online tournaments. Or I guess a lot of them are webcam tournaments, and those obviously have cards you can't play, but mostly are cards that you can. And so the first type is, of course, grass. Grass, I think the main thing with this type is the high energy acceleration on stage 2s. You have Venusaur and Rillaboom, which can get a bunch of energy on the board. Venusaur like doubles it, and then Rillaboom accelerates it from the deck. And then this allows you to play high energy attackers, some like basic ones that are pretty strong. We see Tapu Bulu and Zarude, and there's some other ones as well that you could play in there. And they're all quite strong and presumably like taking one shots relatively easily. Then you could also play Brambleghast as a stage 1 that's kind of like that. And then also the Torterra line is really good. The deck's engine it doesn't have a draw engine. So you have Grottle, though. This is a stage 1, which allows you to search your deck for a grass Pokemon every single turn. This card's really good, and then Torterra is also really good. It has 190 HP, which is really high. Then it does 50 for each of your evolution Pokemon to play, which is generally pretty solid. Going to be hitting probably like 150, maybe 200. So that's pretty good. Certainly, you're not going to be using Hammer, and that's pretty bad and unlikely to be that much stronger than EvoPress. And then even like the Roserade, which you kind of want as some draw support you can't play because it's a little too old. And then you also have Badoo as well if you want. I haven't really seen Badoo that much in GLC, honestly. It's like new, it's not brand new by any means, but it's relatively new. And so that's good you can include. But obviously it's pretty weak in terms of damage and health. And then also people generally play more supporters and have like stronger supporters. They have good items, but you can only play so many good items in the format. And then also you have the fact that every deck, or not necessarily every Pokemon, but in every deck, essentially every Pokemon can attack and has like an okay attack. Okay, as in like it can deal with Badoo. Badoo is like really weak, so that's another thing which is like a bit of a downside for Badoo. And also you can't play 4 rare candies, so you can't be entirely rare candy reliant. This list does play a rare candy, but obviously only one here. Nothing super crazy to talk about with the trainers. Some you can't play, some you can. Turffield Stadium gets you grass Pokemon, so that's like a cool part. And pretty normal trainer counts. The trainers are, of course, you have Boss's Orders and Professor's Research and Iona, which are in standard. Cynthia is another really good Shuffle Draw supporter, Shuffle Draw 6, so that's really good, kind of like Iono. And then there's also Guzma. You can only play one boss orders. You can play Guzma, which is a Gus, but you also switch. It's like Prime Catcher on a supporter, so that card is also really good. It's better than boss orders, but they're pretty comparable. And then also Marnie, I think, is in my opinion, a staple supporter. You each player shuffles their hand, puts it on the bottom of of their decks, then you draw 5, your opponent draws 4. It's a little bit stronger than Judge, and it's quite good. There are some other supporters that are also good. I'll mention Gladion actually here. Gladion lets you look at your face down prizes and then put a card there into your hand, and then swap Gladion with those prizes. That's pretty good because then you couldn't get any card out of your prizes, and you only play one copy of it. So if it's prized and it's really important, that's kind of bad for you. So that's a good supporter. I will mention, and also Carless. I think Carless is like a little less important. Also Teammates. Teammates is pretty good. You cannot play those supporters. So there are some good ones that you can't play. In terms of other trainers, you can't play Floatstone either, though there's a card Air Balloon that's actually getting reprinted, which I actually talked about, I think, yesterday or the day before. And so you can play that instead. But there are, again, a handful of trainer cards you will not be able to play because they aren't in the game. Presumably, again, I am recording this before it's out, so I'm pretty sure that that's the case. But then the other grass stack is this one, which is there are some different variations of this, but the main idea here is that you want to be using cheap grass attackers. We see Venomoth, which is like Bidoof, but it's stronger, but it's a stage 1. We again see the Torterra line, but then we see Buzzwole, which is like solid, and then we see Diplin, and we see Skip or Jumpluff, which are both good because they can attack twice. Of course, Diplin with Festival Lead. If you have Festival Grounds in play, you can attack twice, and then you also see Jumpluff, which can just always attack twice. And then you have Lilligant in Lurantis. Lilligant's in Standard. Lurantis is like the same thing, and you do 20 more damage with your Grass Pokemon, and then that's doubled because you're attacking twice, so that's kind of cool. This like cheaper grass attacking deck is also like cool. You can also play it with, I'll mention Charm. I think Charm is a little underrated because it allows you to I don't actually know why it's not played that much, but it's a stage 1 that accelerates as much grass energy as you want from your hand to your Pokemon any way you want. It's only non-rule box Pokemon, but that's every Pokemon, so it's really good. It's like not It doesn't have the perfect synergy with Venusaur and Rillaboom. It's a little like weird, but it's not bad. So I'd also recommend that card. It's a pretty cool one. Also Revitalize is a grass card that's kind of cool. It's not insane, but you cannot play it. And then the Raihan's another good supporter, and Balgai. I'll mention those. Those are cool. They're less, in my opinion, less integral to like the main gameplay than those other ones that I mentioned. Then especially something like Iono and like Guzma, but they're still nice supporters. Raihan accelerates and searches for a card, and then Balgai gets your ball cards, which there's a bunch of, and they all have different names, so it works really well. Then the next type here is Fire. Fire has a few different things, again, kind of focused on energy acceleration. So this first list here has Charizard, which doubles the energy just like Venusaur, except Charizard is actually like way better stats-wise in terms of attacking and stuff. Then you have Volcanion, you have Welder as well, and Blacksmith and Mela to accelerate energy onto your board, and then you have Volcanion as a solid attacker. You have Arcanine, which can also accelerate and also does damage. And then you have Castform, which is strong. You have Chi-Yu, you have Entei, and then you have Heatmore. Heatmore is a really interesting attacker if it has 6 energies on it, which again, that's 3 if you have Charizard in play because they're doubled. Then it does 90 active, 180 snipe. A lot of types don't have bench protection. This will be coming out before Shaman as well, so Grass won't have a basic bench protecting Pokemon. There is Rabsca there, but anyways, I figured I'd mention that. Heatmore is like really interesting. It's a big commitment, big payoff card. Then Magcargo is a part of the draw engine, letting you search your deck for any card, putting it on top of your deck. That's like solid. Obviously, it doesn't get into your hand right away, so it's not that risky. It's a little risky, but more so it's a bit slow. And also you need to be playing pure draw supporters as opposed to shuffle draw supporters. So we see Tate and Liza as a shuffle draw supporter, and then Arven, isn't like a regular draw supporter either, but the rest of the supporters all draw from the top of your deck, including Iono. And so that is something that you kind of want to keep an eye on. We also see like Trek and Shoes and Acrobike to get that top card of your deck. So the engine's a little bit different, but again, this is kind of similar to the grass stack where you're getting a bunch of energies on the board and then accelerating them. The other Fire, this is like, it's not completely different or anything. We still see some strong basic attackers that do big damage. We see Ninetales, which is a bit more versatile. It can snipe and it's pretty solid. Then we see Skeledirge. Skeledirge is a strong stage 2. It's actually kind of like the Torterra in that regard is a strong stage 2, 2 energies, hitting big damage, and is pretty tanky as well. And then with Magcargo, the other Pokemon you can pair with it, it's not always there. The Fire Engine can change a little bit, but Salazzle is really good with Roast of Veal, letting you discard a Fire Energy from your hand and then drawing 3 cards. This card is kind of like Revavroom in the fact you need an energy in your hand to use it, which means it's a little risky if you get put to a smaller hand size, but still it's still really good. Oh, also I'll mention Hexmaniac. Hexmaniac is a card that ability locks. I think its removal from the format isn't drastically going to change things, but if you are someone who's used to playing GLC and used to playing around Hexmaniac, you don't need to do that anymore. And that's not going to do anything for you. You also have Magma Basin to accelerate energy. I didn't mention that before. I mentioned Weldering Blacksmith and Mela, but you have that other option. You also have Reinhardt, which is pretty similar to Mela. And Fire has a bunch of like really solid support cards just in general. So it's a pretty fun type, and one that gets a lot better in GLC than in Standard. Next up we have here is Water. Honestly, this is kind of more the same, where you have Max Caliber and then Frostmoth, which is just a slightly weaker Max Caliber, but it's a stage 1 that accelerates a bunch of water energy to your board. Then you have some strong water attackers. You have Kyogre and Wishiwashi as basics. And there's some other ones as well that aren't in this list. Then we also see the Wailord. Wailord is a stage 1, which has insane HP. I think it's the highest HP single prizer. I actually don't know if that's true, but it's up there if it's not there. And it's a stage 1, so it's definitely the highest for stage 1. And then Hydro Pump is a pretty strong attack. It's expensive, but it's really strong, and so that's pretty good there. And then you also see that it has a good engine, I guess. You have Inteleon and Drizzile on play. They're kind of like Noctowl. They're pretty good. Inteleon's a very solid attacker. And then Octillery dropped to a 5, but this one is not in the format. This is a pretty big loss for it, so not exactly sure what you're going to do there. Water still has a lot of good pieces, but you don't have that there, unfortunately. Then Water also has a lot of good support. Water is one of the 2 types that gets like a ton of really good cards, including really good support Pokemon and really good attacking Pokemon. So yeah, it's pretty good just at like a base level. The other build of Water, this one's pretty cool. Some you have some Rapid Strike stuff. This one you can actually play the Rapid Strike Octillery, because you can't play this one, so that could get you some value there as like a search engine. But then you also have Greninja, which can like place damage around the board and is sometimes immune. You got Palafin, which can do a little bit of spread, but has Justice Kick, which is 210, which is like obviously a lot of damage. And then if it swings in, Palafin's a really cool card. I played this summon Lost Zone a while ago, but it's cool. And then you have Cloyster, which is like a really solid stats attacker. That is Rapid Strike as well, so that's pretty cool. And then Cast Form for some spread as well. Also, Alolan Vulpix is a setup attacker. It's arguably one of the best setup attackers ever. Setup attackers aren't, even in GLC, they're not like insanely strong, but Alolan Vulpix is still really good, and searching for any 2 Pokemon, putting them into your hand. It's a very, very solid card here. And as I said, Water has good support. This one isn't energy acceleration, and a lot of them kind of work with that, but you can still use them here and there. They're pretty good. And also Aqua Patch, that's like an energy acceleration card, like Dark Patch, which just rotated. Then the next type we have here is Lightning. Lightning generally focuses on spread. You could actually, no, you probably have to focus at least somewhat on spread. You have Electivire and Raichu, which essentially just do 50 to all your opponent's Pokemon. Raichu does 50 to all Pokemon with damage on them, including your own. So that one's like a little weirder to set up, but it's pretty similar to Electivire. And then Tapu Koko does 20 to all your opponent's Pokemon. And then you have Regieleki, which is another solid spread attacker. The way you get energy on your board is a little different than the other types, with Electric, which is getting a reprint, and Flaffy, which is a reprint of Electric, which Electric is going to be a reprint of Flaffy, with a new one coming out, which is a reprint of Electric. So that's kind of funny, but I did just talk about this card recently, because what it does is it accelerates a basic Lightning from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon, and you have 2 of it, except you actually only have 1 of it, because this one is not in live. So it'll be back in live eventually, guaranteed, with a Black Bolt and White Flare, but Flaffy is the one you're going to have to rely on. There are other forms of Lightning Energy Acceleration. There are some Pokemon, there's like some Magnetons that knock themselves out, and an Electrode, and then you have that as an option, which is like okay, I guess. And then there's also like a Magnezone, but Flaffy is definitely the main energy acceleration card you're going to be using. Having just that is a little sketchy, but it's maybe okay. I mean, if you have it, it's probably all right. And then you also have Zip Strike as your draw engine. This is really the only one. There is an Electrode, but you can't even play that, and it's not super good. And then there's also an Iono's Kilowatt, which I think is okay, but I think without Electric, it's pretty bad. And then Although you could play that with Magnezone, but Zebstrika lets you discard your hand, draw 4 cards every turn. It's a really, really solid card. Obviously, it's pretty aggressive. It actually works with the Zapdos here, which if it swings into the active, it does 80 on a basic, which is really, really solid and like really good damage there. So you can go with like a more aggressive focus. Then you also have the slower end game of like doing a lot of spread damage. So it's a pretty interesting type in my opinion. Lightning definitely has some really fun cards, and probably the first type I'm going to play in live, but we'll see. Then the next type we have here is Psychic. Oh, also comment down below which types you want me to play in live and what cards you want me to play. Because I think I'm going to play all the types in live, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm definitely going to play most of them though. But Psychic here, again, you have Energy Acceleration using Zadu, and then you also have and Malamar as well. These two accelerate energy. They're stage ones. They accelerate one each. Zadu accelerates from hand and draws cards. And Malamar is a pseudo reprint of Electric, which is like Flaffy, so gets it from the discard there. Then you also have Curlia for draw. As a really solid draw, and you have Gallade as well to search for a supporter every turn. Obviously, you can't have them together. Gallade is almost always generally better to have him play than Curlia because it allows you to search a supporter, which can do a wide variety of things. So that's really good and can probably draw you cards. And you won't always have a supporter in hand, but Curlia is still good. So you probably want to evolve into Glade. It's also a very solid attacker as well. Then you have some basic attackers, of course. You got Galarian, Articuno, Latios, and Giratina, and Mimikyu as well. This one plays N-Siglif, which is kind of funny. We also see Wobbuffet, but you can't play that one, so no ability lock for this deck. Then we see Monkey Door for, Monkey Door stuff. I don't actually know how good this is in GLC, but I think it's solid. And then just from vibes, again, I haven't like really seen this one in action. And then Galarian Articuno also accelerates to itself from hand, so if you don't have the Zadu or Malamar to power it up, you can do that. It will discard the energies. Latios and Galarian Articuno both will. Giratina does not, but it also damages one of your Pokemon. Okay, so that can set up Monkey Door if you want, I guess. Then you have Distortion Door, which on from the discard, it gets itself back and then places 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This is actually a really, really cool card. And then you also have solid support. Psychic's the other type that gets a lot of really good support here. Though one of the really good cards, Dimension Valley, you unfortunately cannot use, so do keep that in mind. That's part of your, I guess, energy acceleration. It makes your attacks cheaper, so you unfortunately cannot use that. But overall, Psychic is still a type with a lot of really good stuff. Oh, also Mew as well, which is part of the draw engine. It's pretty good in the active. It can get an item from the top 6 cards of your deck, so that's pretty good. Not insane all the time, but it's generally solid still. Then you can also play a more spread-based Psychic list with stuff like, Chandelure is not in this, but you have Ooks, you have Mismagius, you have some other Pokemon as well. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but you can play a more spread-based Psychic deck, and definitely have some solid stuff going on there. Again, you don't have Chandelure, so that's not ideal for you. Chandelure, it gets some extra damage on the board. It's not insane though, but yeah, losing that's kind of awkward. Also, some of the stuff it synergizes with, like Float Stone and Mystery Energy, you also can't play. So yeah, that's something. Also, the Dusk Stone, which kind of synergizes with it, loses a lot of value here. Then the next type is Fighting. Fighting has a few different things going on. Fighting is definitely a type that doesn't have as many cards and as many, it doesn't really have an engine at all. And then it also doesn't have energy acceleration really. So you have some different attackers. It has some really strong attackers though. So we see a few different things here. We see Palossand and Tinglu for some pretty basic but pretty solid spread options. Then we also see Bloodmoon Ursaluna, just like Galarian Articuno. It accelerates to itself on play, which is kind of cool. Also, again, I think this was yesterday's video. I talked about weird trios, how Lotus Clefairy EX fit into the legendary Beasts trio. Blood and Ursaluna now fits in the Galarian Birds trio with its ability, so that's kind of weird, but that's pretty solid. Also kind of relies on some spread before it. Okidogi is really strong. If you're not familiar with this Pokemon, its ability Adrenopower, if it has a darkness attached to it, it gets 100 extra HP and does 100 more damage, boosting it up to 230 HP and then doing 170 damage, which are insane stats. And then you also can you can use rainbow energy to attack easier and other things like it as well. And then also Hawlucha for some extra damage. Buzzle is a really solid basic attacker. It's like Hop's Cramorant. It's a little better though because you can attack more often. And then also it doesn't have like the hot level of support of the Hop stuff, but it's still it's probably better in my opinion than Hop's Cramorant. And then also you have Lucario, which is a really solid comeback attacker for just one energy. Then you have Machoke, which protects your bench, which is cool. How useful is this? I don't know, but it's certainly nice to have. And again, it's like Rabsca. It's a little better than Manaphy. It's stage 1, but it protects you from it protects you from damage and damage counter, so it's a little worse than Rabsca, but it's still pretty solid. Then you have Machamp here, which is really strong. I guess it can do 200 for 2, but can't do that back-to-back turns, or can do 100. But then it also has 300 HP if you're down in prizes, which is like kind of crazy. So you got a bunch of weird attackers. There are definitely some other ones you could play as well. There's also the Hitmon trio, which are like cool but kind of sketchy as well. And then the type again doesn't have like as much support, and also you can't play Karina or Strong Energy, which are both pretty good cards for fighting, but still I think the type's like solid. I mean, you have some good attackers, which is cool. Then the next type is Darkness. Darkness has it loses like Zoroark. Oh, the other Zoroark I think actually is the one that is played a little more. But you also random other things. So this is a type that is substantially hurt by the loss of, or it's hurt certainly by the loss of Double Carless and Twin Energy. They were recently banned in GLC, but you still have energy acceleration through the use of Dark Patch and oh yeah, Dark Patch has like that one is in the game, and like Raihan and a Beast Ring to Guzzlord. Guzzlord is like Iron Hands EX essentially, being able to take an extra prize with its attack, doing 120 for Darkness, Carless. So essentially exactly the same, but obviously different first attack there. And then you have a Weavile, which is pretty solid, stage 1 one energy attacker. Hoopa is just like Zapdos, a solid basic attacker. You got Nivalta, which is like solid in general. It's not amazing though. Then you have Spiritomb. Spiritomb builds up damage on itself. It's actually very similar to Dodrio. It's Obviously, it has less HP, and it doesn't draw cards, but it's still a really solid attacker and a card I like a lot. Then you have Morpeko here with as a pivot, notably for Hoopa, and can like attack and stuff. It's a pretty good card. Sableye is, I guess, part of the draw engine of this deck, but you have Liepard as the main draw Pokemon. This is a really solid draw Pokemon. It's just discard 1, draw 2. Obviously, we see that in Psychic. We also have that in Colorless, so it's not like insane, but it's decent. And so yeah, Liepard definitely a solid card there. And then you also have, you have some support, though you are losing Dark Claw, which is like kind of annoying, and you also don't have Muscle Band. No type has a Muscle Band, so you don't have access to that at all. But overall, Darkness still has a lot of its stuff, and is a strong type and it's like a solid type and a pretty cool type as well. Not one of those big energy acceleration attacking types. Still, you could do that with Hydreigon, but that's a little sketchier. Then the next type is Metal. Metal is notably losing Bronzong, which accelerates energy. There are some other good Bronzongs, including the one that moves it around, which I actually quite like, but you're losing that, so you have to rely on Metal Sorcerer and also Matang, which is a little sketchy. And then you also have some other support options. You have Glirum Berserker and Glirum Meowth, which is like pretty good. Ferrothorn, I'm actually not very familiar with this card, but yeah, this is just like a solid stage 1 attacker. You have Jirachi, which is kind of like Mew, and also like Tatsugiri, which we'll talk about, which looks at the top 5 cards of your deck, gets any trainer there. So it looks at less cards, and then but can get really almost anything. And then also it's able to and then it goes to sleep, right? That's kind of bad, but whatever. You're probably gonna switch out, but then you can also use a skateboard to retreat out. That'll just let you do that there. Iron Crown is a solid basic. Zamazenta is, and there's some other ones as well. So you're kind of looking at like one of those decks where you have energy acceleration and a solid attacker, but you don't have Bronzong. So this type is definitely in a bit of a weird position. You can also lean into more tanky things as well. There's a lot of tanky support for Metal type. So overall, I think Metal's like kind of cool. Definitely not a type that I'm as familiar with. But it's definitely fun. You can go really tanky with it. That's like the thing that it would shine with the most, but that's not always the strongest either. Then we have Dragon. Dragon is probably the type that I'm the least sure of exactly how to play in GLC in live, because it's losing the biggest stuff. It's losing Gabite, which is your like search engine. It's like Grottle, letting you search for a dragon Pokemon every turn. That's really good. But you can't play that. The Garchomp is certainly a solid card, a solid attacker. It's invincible the turn you play it, or I guess on your opponent's turn after that, and then it does big damage, and it does mill you, but it's really solid. Dragcloak is, like, I guess, the main part of your draw engine. Look at the top two, get one to your hand. There is no Dragapult. There are no Dragon Dragapults in the format, or in the regular TCG. There's a Dragapult EX, but there are no Dragon Dragapults. There are some Psychic Dragapults, but nothing that this can evolve into at the moment. But then there's also Haxorus. There are some like different basics as well. Drampa and Dredgen, I think, are the main ones. Regidraco's solid. It's a bit of draw as well. And then you have Tatsugiri to look at the top seven, or no, what's it? Top six cards. I can find a supporter there, which is solid. Actually has like a usable attack as well, but it's not awesome. But then you have you're losing a pretty major card in Double Dragon Energy as well, which is two of energy of any type to drag a Pokemon Servaliant on these one energy of any type cards, some basic energies, and also counter energy. There was actually another build of Dragon that I think is looking at Limitless played a bunch more, which is this build. It has a Raging Bolt to Snipe, which is pretty solid. And also has Drampa, which is like a solid attacker. I know they're just big basic attacker here, but then it focuses on Reshiram, which accelerates fire energy. It's a pretty cool card, but you can't play it. So probably don't play this build. You could kind of run some fire. You could run like Welder, I guess, but yeah, you're gonna kind of have to figure stuff out with how to get your energies on. You have Crispin, you have Raihan, you have I don't know. It's kind of awkward, unfortunately. But yeah, you're all losing some big pieces of a dragon, but you're kind of focusing on like strong basics because they're easier to set up, and you have some solid support as well. Nothing absolutely crazy, but it's not the worst either. So dragon might be okay. I'm not really sure though, to be honest. Then the last type is Carless. This is definitely the type hurt most by the double Carless and twin energy bands. It's as intended there, but you have some really really good cards. First of all, you have like insane support Pokemon. There's a bunch that aren't here in here. They're still really good, but the ones that aren't played are Bibarel and Skwovet. Bibarel letting you draw till 5. Skwovet shuffling your hand, putting it on the bottom of your deck, drawing 1. It essentially just shrinks your hand for Bibarel to draw more. Or Rangu, which lets you draw till you have 3 in hand, and also is like a solid attacker. Also, Fan Rotom is a really good card. Fan Rotom, turn 1 going second, lets you search your deck for oh no, sorry, turn 1 going first or second, lets you search your deck for 3 colors Pokemon with 100 HP or less. That's certainly not all of them. In standard, it actually usually is when you're searching for them, because it's probably just Hoots and Noctowls, and maybe you have another Fan Rotom there. But in GLC, a lot of your attackers have more than that. We see Hop stuff. We see Hop Snorlax, Hops Double, Hops Cramorant. Hops Double on plays a Gust, which is really good. Hops Snorlax, of course, boosts your Hops Pokemon and is a really strong attacker, doing 140, but it actually does guaranteed 170 at least. Then you also have Hops Choice Band to do more than Poster, right? Hops is a deck that I've talked a lot about on the channel relatively recently because it's from the newest set out internationally. And it's still good in GLC as well. And then the Hops Cramorant is, I mentioned the Buzzwell, and again, they're pretty similar. This one, if your opponent has exactly 3 or 4 prizes remaining, you do 120. Otherwise, you don't do anything. Again, you can boost this. The Buzzwell, on the other hand, does 120 if your opponent has exactly 4 prizes remaining. So you can often attack with Hops Cramorant twice in a row as well, which is pretty cool. Also, Pelipper is a pretty fun card. This one on play or on evolution from hand, you search your deck for either a supporter, or no, you either search your deck for a supporter or search your discard for a supporter. So you can get a supporter from anywhere. That's really good. And then you also have Snorlax. You have regular Snorlax. This one does 180 for 3 colorless, and then puts itself to sleep, and then the effect of the attack is that you need to flip 2 coins instead of 1 to wake up, and need both to be heads. And then you also have the ability protecting you from any effects of attack as well, which is pretty cool. Carless is a type that doesn't lose that much from losing the older cards. It does lose Winona, but nothing too crazy here in general. Overall, Carless is really, really good in GLC. This is the meta here, though it isn't, there aren't a ton of tournaments, but there are some, and there aren't also that many people. So the meta isn't necessarily representative of what it would be if, there were like a million people doing it, but still, this is kind of what it looks like. Again, you have Water and Psyche with so many good cards, and then Carless also has a lot of really good stuff. Again, it did actually get hurt by a ban, as I said recently, which will be in live. That is confirmed. So will be in live as the ban, as in the ban will be there and the cards will not. And this list does not play those cards. Also, I wanted to find one that doesn't. Anyways, tell me down below in the comments what you think about GLC and what cards you're excited to play with and what cards you're excited to play against, and finally see back in live that you can play with, because this is going to be You can play Live Expanded, but Live Expanded isn't. Well, actually, if you like Live Expanded and you play it a lot, tell me down below. But in my experience, I haven't really liked it that much. Also, I might have another expanded video actually coming soon. I think there was a tournament, an expanded tournament, but I can't actually find any results from it like at all online. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking and subscribing, hitting the bell, all the good stuff. And as I said, see you in the next video.